Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune. The Steve and Adam Show with Adam and not Steve. This is Jóhannes Kristjánsson. Say it. You say it. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, my name is Jóhannes Geir Kristjánsson. I'm the owner of the Windows Admins Discord community.
Yes, and he's also an all-around nice guy who knows all sorts of cool things. And he's decided to join us mainly because the Aussie guys are sleeping it off right now, and me and Jake did a couple videos last night. And anyway, Jóhannes and I have had lots of conversations around Intune and migrating to Intune and getting off of on-prem resources and things. And I thought he'd be a great resource to have in here and give some real-world kind of information and discussion around the topic today, which is going to be the accessing on-premises resources with an Azure AD only device. There's been a lot of discussion recently in because of Ignite and things. Just at least on Twitter, I've had lots of conversations, and just kind of over the last little bit, lots of people saying, I need to still access on-premises resources, so I have to do hybrid join. And continually the response is, well, you don't need that. You can do that with Azure AD only. Well, no, you can't. That doesn't work. Well, absolutely. Yes, it does. You may know that a while back we did a video on hybrid key trust and accessing on-prem resources using Windows Hello for Business. And if you've watched that, you may remember that in the beginning, we talked about this piece that we're going to discuss, but we never really kind of got into the weeds on how to set it up. And so we want to make sure that we cover that, because this is a stepping stone, and it's really an easy thing to configure that will help you get to an Azure AD only platform instead of a hybrid Azure AD platform. And still do all of the same things that you're hoping to do with your hybrid environment. So that's kind of the goal of this video, is to walk through that. Before we get started, just wanted to give a plug for Jóhannes for Windows Admins. Honestly, the Windows Admins has really become a home for many of us in the community. I go there daily. We have a voice channel that we several voice channels that we generally get into and chat, but we've got Config Manager, Intune, and all sorts of other channels that are available for topics. So just like if you're going to Reddit or going to Twitter or Facebook to ask questions and get support, this is another platform to be able to do that. But we've got, Jóhannes, what do we have, about 4,000 members strong at this point?
Yeah, 4,700 last time I checked.
Nice. If you'd like to join WinAdmins, you can use the aka.ms/WinAdmins or go to discord.com/invite/WinAdmins. We will also put the links in the description of this video. This is not, it's free. You don't have to pay anything to join this. It's just I find this is an incredible community with a lot of really amazing people like Jóhannes, who are just passionate about this work. What are you laughing at?
Just
you're okay. You've got answers to pretty much everything. So most of them involve a fair amount of profanity, but that's okay. I mean, we're passionate about this stuff.
No pressure, Adam. No pressure.
So anyway, we're going to get started here. So Jóhannes, for your environment, I'm going to unshare my screen for a second so we can have just a chat here. Okay, so for your environment, what has been your migration process to get from your on-premises to Azure AD, and what's that looking like? And for full disclosure, you're not there yet. You're still working down that path, right? Which is the case for many of us at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I started the sort of migration plans back in 2019, late 2019, and I figured out that like the first thing you should do is to move the authentication workload to Azure AD if you can. So if you have like an application or service or website or something that you can move, you should do that first, because that's a really easy sell for like the rest of your team and the company you work for and so on and so forth. Especially because you can always say, hey, we should have multi-factor authentication for this. And if we move the authentication workload to Azure, we can just enable conditional access and it just works. Besides that, I Azure AD-joined my own workstation to Azure AD about a year ago, and well, actually more than a year ago. And I decided, instead of just fixing the issues just on my machine, I would just create the policies in Intune and Azure AD. So by the time we would start moving other people to it, it would all be set up. It would just mostly work, and you would have minor issues to contend with, and all the major stuff had already been set up and fixed. And that's pretty much the status that we are in right now.
And so you've just been dogfooding it and then just taking on that hit to experience what the full impact of being Azure AD only, and just been making it work. So have you found any things that you are unable to do while on your business network that you just can't fix?
Absolutely nothing.
So that's file shares, network drives, websites.
Nothing. Currently, nothing. But getting to the state that we are in right now was not easy, because documentation was not easy to find or not easy to understand. There are like weird things that just aren't documented. Like nobody tells you some of this stuff. Like nobody knows. And but thanks to like Intune training and other people, it's like it, and like just for the viewers who are watching this is not like a 1,000-item list. This is like 4 or 5 things you need to fix, and they're relatively easy to fix. It's just that you don't know what's wrong or how to fix it. You can't Google something that you don't know what's broken.
Yes, that's exactly the deal, right? So then this is where that personal experience and then the collaboration has really paid off, because we've been able to have a mix of Microsoft folks and other consultants and other people that are doing the same things or have been in the space a long time. We've been able to collaborate on those things and work through them and say, okay, hey, all right, I'm running into this. Has anybody seen this? What am I missing? And it's been great, because we've all been one day we're wearing the expert hat because, hey, we've been down that road. We've got the scars for it. And then the next day we're like, I'm embarrassed to ask this question. Does anybody know how to do this?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think we're all in the same boat here, and it's a fun ride. So anyway, that's kind of set some context, and so the purpose of this video is really to inspire those of you who have said, we've got to go hybrid. We can only do hybrid because of XYZ, to really rethink and revisit the hybrid concept. Now, be real clear. This is for new devices that we're discussing this for. If you currently have devices that are Azure or that are on-prem AD-joined, and then you've enabled the hybrid registration either through group policy or through config manager client settings, that will hybrid join an existing device. We're not talking about changing those at this point. This is when you reset that device, you can convert it to Azure AD only. But if it's hybrid today, that's because it was formerly it was born as an AD device, and you've now joined it to Azure. We're talking specifically for this about Azure AD only devices, so it's born as Azure AD. It's never been connected to the domain network, so it will never, it's starting out as Azure AD only.
It has no presence in on-premises Active Directory. It only exists in Azure AD.
Yes. And so that's what we're talking about. So when we're talking about hybrid here, we're saying don't go like hybrid autopilot. Do Azure AD only autopilot as your provisioning method to get new devices built. So that's the framework for this. This will work for existing devices as well. But this is what we're focusing on. All right, so enough of the enough of that. So let's get into the meat and potatoes here. Now, I have to set some framework on what we've got. I have built a brand new tenant in Intune or in Azure and Intune actually. So I've got Azure Active Directory configured. I've got Intune configured. If you want to get to here where I'm at from the Azure Active Directory and Intune side of things, getting your tenant configured, we have a Intune quick start video that we released a couple months ago that will link as well. So that I would start there before you go down this path. Okay, so that's what the cloud stuff looks like. From an on-prem perspective or on-premises, I'm going to say on-prem. I know technically it's on-premises, but it's too much. We are going to go, so I've built a single server that has active. I was doing this for config manager testing, but it works for this as well. So this device has Active Directory, a single domain called asd.lab, and this is the only server in the environment. And I've set up a file share called Cool Stuff as a hidden share on this this domain, and so it's got Cool Stuff as our share that we want to hit, and there's nothing else special. I have a CA set up, but it's not. I'm not issuing certificates from it at this point. And I'm going to log in on this machine. I think the right password for it. So I've set up Jóhannes an account on this is a domain joined workstation. So this is a traditional, normal domain joined workstation. It's not even hybrid joined or anything like that. Just regular domain joined, just to show, okay, this is how everything functions and stuff. So you can see it's just on the domain, and I've done nothing special. And I'm going to hit the file share CM01 and then go Cool Stuff $, and I can hit that file share. So that's it. That's all we're trying to do. And so we're going to do the same thing on an Azure AD only device. Now, caveat, that Azure AD only device definitely has to still have line of sight to this resource. So you're going to have to either be connected physically to the domain network or on the VPN in order for this to work. So that's what we're going to attempt to do, this same function, but on an Azure AD device. So to do that, we have started with a device that is, we've created an Azure AD only user account, and this device is, oh, it's going to make me set up hello. I thought we were done with this one. Oops. Well, whatever. Okay. And you'll notice that, like, the user account is like the .onmicrosoft.com because we haven't even set up like a cloud anything on this. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna have to move this. Oh, sorry, 1 second here. I'll just cut this piece out, maybe, if I remember.
How many times have you done this?
Oh, what? Cut pieces out of it, or
no, like this, exactly this stuff. Like, oh shit, I have to set up multi-factor authentication and blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, way too many times, way too many. Okay, come on, dude. Oh, okay. See, I love that. It says can't set up your PIN now. Okay, so now this device is not on the domain network. It is simply on the internet. So that is evidenced by the adapter that I've got connected to it. So that's my internet adapter. And so I'm going to demonstrate how this functions. And what I'm hoping is that we will be able to then flip around and use, so now the next step is going to be setting up Azure AD Connect on our domain environment, synchronizing our on-premises user accounts to the cloud and then using that to log in. So the account that I'm using currently on this device that's taking forever to load is just simply an internet device with an Azure AD only user account. And so if I was to attempt to connect to that share, it obviously will not work because it doesn't know anything about it. It's not on the domain, any of that. Okay, so this would be equivalent to a device that you've autopiloted or otherwise manually enrolled into Intune, which is actually what we did. Is we didn't even autopilot it. We just manually enrolled it into Intune. But you can see it's connected to our Azure AD tenant. And if we jump over here, I'm hoping that we will see it registered into Intune if we did it properly. And there we go. So there's our new device. Okay, so next step is we're going to go to our server and we're going to set up Azure AD Connect. So from this is not it. Where is it? It's going to be under Azure Active Directory, which I think that view button would have taken us there as well. And it should be a setting here, Azure AD Connect. And then there will be a download link to download the tool. So download Azure AD Connect here. And so there are numerous ways to set up Azure AD Connect, and you can get really complex on how you configure it and what you do with it. Like I know in our company, we've got, when we first enabled things, we wanted to restrict a lot more stuff, and we didn't want to synchronize everything to the cloud. And so we spent, not me, someone else, the server folks, spent time setting up our rules for Azure AD Connect to prevent certain accounts from synchronizing or prevent certain attributes or things because there were certain security concerns involved there. So this is not necessarily something to just take lightly and say, oh yeah, turn it on and synchronize everything. If you've got an existing environment that has lots of things, you certainly want to take a look at Microsoft's cloud security guidance. They've got a lot of great documentation on cloud security and what you do with it and how to configure things. And so certainly take a look at that specifically around like what types of accounts to synchronize and all of those sorts of things. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to go through, now there is express settings, and then there are, you can customize this. And so I'm kind of on the fence. Jóhannes, what do you think? Do we do the express or do we go through the customize and kind of show the differences on this?
Let's go through the customize thing.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I've actually never done this. I have another guy who handled this side of things where I work.
Nice.
But
okay,
it's
so the
relatively simple anyway.
So it looks like this is so we have the opportunity right here to set up a SQL server for it, custom installation location, can set up a service account, use specify custom sync groups. So we can say, okay, these are the groups that we do or don't want to sync. And then if we've already set up these settings, we can import these from other Azure AD Connect servers. Okay, so in this case, we're going to just get a SQL Express local database set up. So you can see if if you've got, I mean, this is a critical component to have in your environment. And so if you want to have better controls over this and have it sitting on an actual SQL box or a SQL cluster or something along those lines, you could see where maybe you'd want to customize this install.
There's one thing you should keep in mind is that a server that hosts Azure Active Directory Connect is what would you call it? Like a high privilege role. It's not a domain controller, but you should treat it as one.
Yes,
you should not just allow anybody to log into this. This is a high privilege.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in my environment, if I want to look at this, confirm a setting, verify, work through anything on it, I have to work with a domain admin in order to do, or enterprise admin or something to get access to it. So and then even then, like the service accounts used for it to synchronize everything, they've got lots of securities and controls around that stuff as well. So okay, so I think we're going to set this up with do not configure on user sign in initially, because I think this is a large thing, or I think this is one of the main issues that many folks are running into in this setup. Because in the conversations we're having, we say, hey, you need to have Azure AD Connect set up. Well, yeah, we do. Okay, well, the next thing we find out is, well, but our Azure user account is the same as our on-prem user account, but the passwords are different. Well, that's because you're not keeping your passwords in sync. And using so the recommendation generally from us is using password hash sync. These are difficult to set up, and so I'm not entirely sure on the rest of these, but I would expect that all of them would perform the same way. But it's this do not configure, which is then prevents single sign-on from working. And so that's kind of the deal here, is you need to have single sign-on enabled in order for the Azure AD resources to access your on-premises resources. So, I mean, I kind of want to demo this and show that we can get the user synced first, and then we will show the next step of, let's enable it and show you the difference in the experience. Because I hope that will help some folks that are already kind of halfway here, and they just need to go and toggle that setting. Boy. So many things to type, too many typing. Okay, so I'm putting in my my Azure AD Global Admin account, super secret username. Now, in your environment, you would at some point you would have a public domain name configured, and you would have that set up in Intune and an Active Directory, and they would know about it, and you'd have your email addresses and all of those things all configured properly and stuff. And so for us, for this environment, we have not set up an enterprise, what you call it? Why is that not working? Connection information. This is the one we want. No directories currently configured. Okay, so add directory, add a forest. Use existing. Okay, so ASD. So anyway, you'd have an external email address or a domain name that you would have attached to your username, so you wouldn't have necessarily the .onmicrosoft.com accounts. And I'll show you that as we kind of go through the Azure AD Connect setup here. So there we go. Enterprise is not allowed.
Oh, you have to create a new. Actually, you have to create a new one. What do you know?
That works for me. Okay. I don't mind. It's just a lab. So I was using the username and password fully qualified. Okay. ASD.lab. Does that help? I don't know why we're having trouble here.
What? Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so let's just try this again. It's also worth noting we're giving this a shot live because, well, we didn't want to waste things. So, oh, you know what? Maybe this is the deal. Hold on. So I thought this was asking me for the new account name that I wanted to create. I think it's actually asking if I want to create an account, but then also asking me for my enterprise admin account for it to use. First option is recommended, requires you to enter an admin account. Okay, so that's what it is. There we go. It's fun. All right.
Also, this is like usually something you do once. It's not
yes.
something you do very often.
Unless you're just frequently building labs out and stuff. So right. So okay, so if the Azure AD domain had a domain assigned to it, which is kind of what we were talking about, then this is where that would come into play. And so this is where you can, in Azure Active Directory, you'd come into custom domain names, and you would add a custom name here, and you'd set up some CNAME records and things, and then then Azure AD Connect would be able to do the translation on the user accounts and things once it synchronizes. Additionally, inside of your devices and role devices, there's a CNAME validation option here as well. And so this would be the same deal as if you've set up your auto enrollment things and stuff. You would have your external domain. This is where you would also come in and manage that. So we're not going down that path right now because I don't believe we need to. And then we can determine select the on-premises attribute that is the Azure AD username. So this will be your UPN at this point, and continue without matching UPN to verified domains. Users will not be able to sign in Azure AD with on-premises credentials if the UPN suffix does not match the verified domain. This is going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in this case, we could choose whether we wanted to synchronize specific things. So this is an option before you go too far down and say, oh, hey, I don't want all this stuff. You can configure things. So you definitely do have some functionality where you can go through and customize things. As we said in the beginning, we could have done the express setup, but we just wanted to be able to show the full experience here. And then, so we have password write back, password hash sync, and Azure AD app attribute. I really don't like these the hovers. They keep getting me. You stop talking with my mouse, right? So at this point, we're leaving this alone because I want to show the misconfiguration of this and say, okay, look, once we synchronize the accounts, we should be able to see what this looks like.
Okay, so before you stop the synchronization, there's one thing you should do. You should go to the computer management on this server that you have open.
Okay.
And you need to add yourself to a security group.
On this actual server?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Oh, this is my domain controller, though. It won't have local security groups.
Okay.
So in the normal environment, yes, but this is a single. I got a single box lab. Like that's the whole thing here. So,
okay. So the thing you need to be aware of is that when you install Azure AD Connect, it creates a few security groups, and one of them is AD Sync admins and AD Sync browse, AD Sync operators, AD Sync password set. If you want to view what's actually happening during the synchronization, you need to add yourself to the AD Sync admins group. Oh, well, there it is. So.
Yeah, and I already am the one
okay.
that I need. So, yeah. No, it's a very good point. So, yes, you do get these new accounts created.
And then
you also get this guy. This is your service account. And so if you were looking at services, you'd also see.
And there's an application on your server that's called synchronization service that you can then open, and you can see in real time what's going on when you sync.
Yeah, so you can see it creates this automatically creates this new account with its own password and manages that for you. So you can customize this. That was what that one option that we got hung up on. You could have customized it there. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And so now this is going to start the synchronization. Now, so what we're expecting is that we've created 2 on-premises accounts. So we've got Jóhannes's account and my account, and then we already previously had in the cloud where did it go? A single user account for myself, which was my Azure AD only user account. So we can see, so we're already getting the on-premises directory sync service account. So we get that created here. And then this is my cloud admin account. And then this is my Azure AD only account. So we can see we don't have anything here yet, but that's what we're starting with. And so we should see several more show up as we go. I'm going to mess this up. I know it, but there is a place where you can configure the additional. All right, Jóhannes, you may know the answer to this because I've only done it a couple times, but every time I try to do it, I miss it. So, okay, so on a user account, you can configure their
UPN.
UPN.
Whoa.
It's on like DHCP or on DNS or
No, it's not DNS. It's
Active Directory
sites,
domains and sites and services.
Yeah, domains. It's a domains and trust or sites and services. I'm leaning towards sites and services.
Okay, we're gonna see.
It's been a while.
It's one of those like I know of it and I'm like, how do I add this and where do you go? And it's like a little box that has a just go add a thing in, and I miss it every time. Okay, that's domains and trust. Let me close that. Okay, so I'm messing it up here. Sites and services, and the people watching this just skip it. Sorry, okay. So it's not sites and services.
Yeah,
Manage or properties. Okay, so that's just managing the domain, but properties, trusts. I think is this where we do it? New trusts.
Should be able to find this.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a thing. We'll figure it out. I'm not going to make y'all go through it, but it gives you the option to change your UPN from being the external or the internal lab URL to an external one. So if you've ever, most everybody should already have this set up anyway. But if your UPN is like ASD.lab instead of ASD.net or something, you may find that that's something you need to go and toggle, because that impacts the username, the email address option on your user account here in, that's not where you do it, the Office 365 Admin Center or Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So the screen refreshes are slower than I'm clicking. Come on. Wow. All right. There we go. So you can manage the username and email alias. Actually, that's the alias. This is the username and email. And so you could, if you have additional domains registered, you can then come in here and change these guys as well. So just kind of tying that together, this is some of the stuff that I've run into as like, I'm not a, you set up Active Directory once in a career sometimes, like unless you're building it out in a lab. And so I'm just doing stuff in labs, and so having to learn a lot of this stuff as we go. So I think we are good. Configuration synced, and then do a test sign in on the Azure portal. Okay, so can exit that. Before we go any further, we're going to look at so there is a rules editor as well as a synchronization service. So under the rules editor, you can actually come in here and see the rules and what's set up and the way that things are mapping between user accounts. This is way beyond my expertise on how to modify these things. I'm sure there's some great blogs and docs on this, but you can see this is kind of neat stuff where you can see, okay, here's what's going to happen. This attribute is going to get synchronized from AD to Azure AD in this way. And so you could come in and say, well, that's not right, or I could add new things or customize things. So lots of opportunities here on being able to change the user and the device synchronization options. So let's go and check, there's also the synchronization service. And then on the service, we can actually see.
Just to interject a little bit, it's in the Active Directory domains and trust, and you just open that, domains and trusts. Then you right click on, one up. This one, properties.
There it is. Okay, yeah. So I could add ASD.com or something here and have that. And then once we have that, then we could come into Active Directory on the user properties, and we could change the account to ASD.com. So so if you're synchronizing your user account and you're synchronizing it, so effectively your cloud copy of your user account is owned and managed by your on-premises Active Directory. And so you can't come here and change the username because it's managed by the local Active Directory. So you'd need to go and change this in Active Directory in order for this to
Yes.
work. So.
There's one caveat. If I remember correctly, by default, it does not sync these changes. You have to enable it in Azure AD Connect to sync user principal name changes in AD up to
that's
Azure
okay.
AD.
Good point. Yeah.
Furthermore, as like a pro tip for those watching, you should you should try as best you can. Obviously, some companies and organizations are different, so that the user's UPN, email, zip address, and so on and so forth all look exactly the same.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, your users are going to have a miserable experience.
Yes, absolutely. And so what you saw in that configuration earlier on, where it had the lab or the domains listed, and it said here's your Azure AD domain to match to. That's where you would have gone into Azure AD and added a custom domain here, and then when it's synchronizing, it would synchronize. So I could add ASD.com here. And great, and verify and stuff, and then once we do that, then that becomes a domain that's available to match from your Azure AD Connect, from your user account. So you'd have your user accounts configured with ASD.com here, and then you would in the Azure AD Connect wizard, you would which I can reopen here. It pauses synchronization when you do this, just so don't leave it open. But when you go and reconfigure it, if you configure your user options, is it the user sign-in synchronization?
Oh, I don't remember, honestly. Yes,
one of these. Maybe it's the Feder. I don't know. Anyway, one of these options. It was the option to change the connect directories. That's the one. As is the case most of the time, you just guess and click, and if it's not right, you back up. Right? You only mess with this like once, and you say, "Okay, it's good. Move on." So you've got your lab directory connected, but then when you, and of course I'm in the wrong place. Whatever. One of it was the other option where it showed the lab and the domain, the Azure AD domain, and when you get those set up, you can do it. All right, I'm just making a fool of myself at this point, so we're going to continue. Okay, so what we've seen now is we actually have users synchronized. Yay! Look at that! Yay! Okay, so these are our on-premises users, and they are now synchronized. And we now need to add licenses to these place with these, save changes. I think that works.
E5? Okay. Gee, I'm honored.
It's a trial. I had to create a new lab because the one we used in our last video, trial's already expired, so we didn't get to do it. So now that we've got these users licensed, what we should be able to do is go to this device. And so now this is the one where I've already signed in with my cloud only account. And what we want to do now is we want to sign in with another user account. And so I'm going to use Adam at Intune. So we're going to be using this full, that's going to be our account that we sign in with, not this one, this one. Yeah, there it is. Adam at intunetraininglab.onmicrosoft.com. Oh, what's my password now? Okay. Of course, I got that wrong. I swear I said that password correctly already.
Uh-oh.
This is fun. Sorry. I have no idea.
We will fix it in post.
We set yours up though, right? So JGK is our, yep. The problem is I have a more generic lab account password that I normally use, and I can't use it with Azure AD with the Azure AD accounts, and so it's making me reset them to be more complex, it seems. So
this looks more promising.
Yeah, it's probably just doing the normal timeout. It's still not going to work. We can verify by doing an in private window. So that's not what I meant to do. In private. So you can just go to portal.office.com, and then I'll use my new training lab 1.onmicrosoft.com. It's always the password problem here. That's my admin password. Didn't like it. Okay, well, that's fun. Let me see. I'm verifying that. Okay, the password I typed in a minute ago is in fact the right password. So I guess this is the question. So if we've just synchronized our accounts to the cloud, but we didn't synchronize passwords to the cloud, do we not get the first password synchronized to the cloud?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think you do.
Right? So maybe not.
Yeah, you would have to. You would have to. Like, I think you're now in a like a split environment scenario.
Because I've disconnected the two accounts, right?
Yeah. They're synced up, but like the credentials are not.
Yeah. That's at least what I would think is the case here, is that we've somehow configured. So sorry, folks. We are doing this live. We don't know. We've never, because we always just click password hash sync. Like, why wouldn't you turn that on? So we're giving it a shot. So let's try this again. So Adam I've told it to reset my password. Okay, and then I've copied the new account. So where's my new in private window? So that's my new password. And now we get to reset that password. Okay. And all of this is just going to let us prove that this doesn't actually work until we enable the password synchronization, because we're already out of sync, and so it's not going to like me here. So we've got to, wow. Again, got to put my, I could do skip setup. There we go. Skip setup. It works. All right, so we got our new, so we were signed in with that account, and so in theory, we should be able to use that same account here. So Adam at training. Wow, I just can't type.
Happens to the best of us.
Can we get in? We got in, yay! Okay, so it's kind of cool because now I know that it was the long password, but I mean the long UPN. But if we had set up our domains like we talked about, that would have been just my email address, right? Generally, I know some folks, their UPNs and emails aren't the same. I don't know why, but there's reasons. There's a reason for it. What we're going to do now that machine is getting connected, or once it fully connects, I'm going to switch the device to use the domain. I'm going to switch the network adapter to use my on-prem version of this to connect to my domain controller that we've been working on. but I can't do that right now while it's asking me for hello. Great. Which is fine. Yes. Can I skip it?
Well, you would have to disable Windows Hello for Business in your tenant.
I didn't enable.
Which I don't recommend anyone to do.
I didn't enable it.
Your journey to Azure AD should coincide with your journey towards passwordless and Windows Hello for Business.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just doing the two-factor over here. Should be good. SMS registered successfully done. All right. And we're not even using hello for this demo, but it's obviously requiring it still. So I just missed something in our tenant config. Okay, so this is just a normal Azure AD only device on the internet, and so now we're going to switch the adapter over to use my lab on VLAN 4, and it gets a little funny on switching the VLAN sometimes. So I may actually, we're just going to bounce the box.
The first step in every troubleshooting.
Right. Okay. So I know it's taking us a while to get here, but it's really trivial things, and we're taking more time just to talk through the things than it was actually going to take you to do this. If you'd have done Azure AD Connect Express settings, you'd already be connecting to your on-premises resources at this point. So I'm not going to do enhanced session, and I'm going to...
Not to mention, most of you who are watching have probably already set this up.
Yes, skip this one if you've already done this. Should have said that in the beginning. Okay, there we go. So I am on the domain network now, doing this sign in. Now, another thing in your environment, like this might not have actually worked because this device doesn't have certs on it or any of that kind of stuff. It might not actually have access to the network or any of those things, but we're just going to show the difference here. So if I do, so you can see that we are on the same network. So we're definitely on this network. And so then let's see if I can do ping cm01.asd.net. And I get nada. That actually could just be my lab configuration as well. But the thing to note is that this device doesn't know about anything on this network. It doesn't know about DNS or things. I don't think it does, unless the domain controller just is helping us out here. So I got nothing on that, and I think this is worth taking a minute and taking a peek at. It's actually going to try to run as admin, but it doesn't have admin rights because it doesn't. Who's that going to be? So remember that. Okay, so Jóhannes, do you know which logs show these things that's going to show us the credential issues that we're going to see here?
Oof. You're firing the big guns now. This is not something I keep in the back of my head.
Okay. So, well, let's try this. Okay, so since we're not entirely sure if DNS is going to help us out here or not, so let's try that. Okay, so I think DNS is part of the issue in this instance. So I'm trying to hit this server and it doesn't like me. Okay, so if I tell it to use this account, then it's not going, or it's already attempted to use this account and it's not working. Even though I know this account has rights to the resource, but it's because we're logging in with the Azure AD version of this account. Okay, so you can see the Azure AD log. This is not the one. Okay, so there are lots of stuff in that one. That's not what we're looking at. So we're looking at security Kerberos. I think it's going to be.
You have to enable.
Enable. Okay. So then we're going to kill that, and then we'll do it again. I think this one's going to show us what we want. I hope. Maybe not. No. Oh, some of these logs will show you the security pieces. Oh, I disabled that one. That was supposed to be enabled. Dang, forgot to verify what log to use for this as we do this. Anyway, that log is great for troubleshooting. Like I know that I've done it for Hello for Business troubleshooting. That one's been a great log for it. There's what's that cool command that we've been the one where you reset your ticket.
Oh, I think another one you're talking about.
Oh man, somebody just tweeted it to me yesterday. I know it. Hold on, let's see. There's other people. See, this is normal. I'm like, I know there's a thing. Hang on, I gotta go find it. Shoot.
K-list?
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's K-list do for us? We have no tickets. Okay, and I know there's some command line options like K-list purge and stuff, I believe. But so we just want to see, do we have any tickets? Okay, so we don't. All right, so all that to say, okay, so we didn't do this right because we still can't get to the domain resources. So what do we need to do next? Okay, so the next piece is we need to go back into our Azure AD Connect and we need to reconfigure it to synchronize our credentials properly, fully. And so for many of you who say, well, I've already got Azure AD Connect, it doesn't work. Well, this is where you need to go to change user sign in. We might need to also change the extra synchronization options on that other tab. Okay, so now we're just going to change to password hash sync, but I believe you can do any of the ones that enable the single sign-on is what you're wanting here. So,
but if you have a choice between password hash sync and pass-through authentication, use password hash sync. It's just easier.
Yes. And each of the rest of them require additional complicated things. And if you're going to then proceed to do Windows Hello for Business, you're going to want the password hash sync anyway, because it needs to synchronize your next-gen credential between your devices or your user account and Active Directory. Okay, so we'll synchronize that. What I'm hoping is that it's going to overwrite my cloud user account. What do you think? You think it's going to overwrite my password?
It should, because now you're treating your on-prem Active Directory as the source of truth. So it will be authoritative, basically.
Okay. So we need to look at the synchronization service and see if we're done, which I think we are because we did the, no, we haven't, it hasn't actually synced. So you can run like full synchronization on it manually here. So you can just right click on any of these and hit run and choose what you want to do, or you can wait for it to do its thing. The list will auto refresh as it does things for you. But we're going to
also see exactly what it did update. So
yep.
If you click on one of these options, you can see in the lower left which attribute was updated or removed or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and so it takes some work, but you can look through here and find things that aren't working, or find errors or bugs or whatever in the process, and see what's going on. Okay, so we're going to try again. I hope this works. So I'm typing in my old password. Is there a chance that that's going to work? Look at that. So you saw me go through the whole hassle of, well, that it didn't work because it didn't like, I needed to create a new Azure AD password for my Azure AD version of my account. And now I turned on password hash sync and it synced my domain credential to the cloud. So now my device should have access, or my user account. Sorry, let me be real clear. This is a user-based authentication. It's nothing to do with the device, sort of nothing. Okay, so let's get that IP address again. In fact, who knows, DNS might even work, but I don't think so. Look at that. I did nothing else. All right, so look, now we got this cool stuff. Oops. Cool stuff dollar, secret share. Look who's hanging out in there. Yeah.
This guy.
Mr. Reader himself. So I know this was a whole lot of stuff, but ultimately, because okay, so we're trying to mix up some things here, and there's a large audience on this, and so I know this is a lot of moving parts here, but in the end, simply configure Azure AD Connect to use some version of password hash synchronization to keep the accounts in sync so that your credentials are the same, and then magic will happen. That's it. Now, we mentioned in the beginning, I think, or maybe we didn't, we talked about our Hello for Business video that we did. It gets, you just go from here to then, okay, I want to use Hello credentials. All right, well, Hello credentials are more difficult because they require additional configuration. You've got to have a root certificate, and you've got to turn on, you've got to do set up a CRL and different things. So there's more things that are involved in that process. Okay, so I wanted to do K-list here and see, do I get a ticket? No, so maybe not. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong. I'm probably looking at the wrong thing. But ultimately, I mean, there it is. Like, we didn't. That's it. I logged in with Azure AD credentials. I'm an Azure AD only device.
Just so we are clear on this, it's not just file shares. It's all on-premise resources, printers, websites,
yes,
whatever.
So look, I've got IIS running on this machine, I'm sure, because it's a config manager box. So I should be able to. Now let's check out DNS for us here, because I know in my labs I generally add some stuff, but will that just work? No. Okay, so it doesn't know about the DNS handling, but I probably can configure it right here on the network adapter, right?
Yeah, you should.
So this is something that I pushed down from my from Intune as a configuration option. Oh man. Not the password. So properties. Now you would not do this manually, but should work, right?
Don't you need to actually set a DNS server?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
again,
I guess maybe.
This is like the last time I set up a domain was like 6 years ago.
Nope, just worked.
Okay.
So now, in that setting is not a thing that you can set as part of. You have to do a custom. No, there's nothing. A PowerShell script. I've got a PowerShell remediation script to be able to set your DNS lookup stuff. But anyway, so now we've got short names, and now we can go to cool stuff, $, and it still works. Okay, so now that I've got that,
who doesn't love that?
me, this guy.
I've probably seen this like 200 or 300 times.
Stop! I don't want that ever. Like, I just don't want it to. I want it, like, just ask me later. Like, have it as a thing I can do later. I don't want to do it when I first launch. Because if I'm launching it, I probably don't. I'm not launching it so I can set it up. I'm launching it so I can do something useful. Okay, so cmo1.asd.net and hit enter. Might be HTTPS. Heck, it might not even be configured properly. It should be running. Default website, config manager. Yeah. Why is that not working, Jóhannes?
Beats me.
So,
does it work on the on this server itself?
Should browse. Localhost works. Oh.
Uh-oh. This is going to be a 2-hour video.
Oh, maybe. Something's not configured in my DNS somewhere. Oh. That makes sense. Right? We need to add the hostname bindings. That's probably all. I bet that'll do it. Might as well do both, right?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things that I never, ever do as part of my job. Well, not never, ever, just very rarely.
Was that the right cert? SSL roles. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So now if we hit it, does it work? I'm just going to quit trying at this point. I don't know what I'm missing there. But that totally works. Look at that. So same result, got to the same thing, all good. Now this specifically, like, so this is using the cert on here. This, I mean, from a config manager perspective, like you start getting into things that need certs and stuff like that. So like, okay, so if you've got a website that has HTTPS enabled and it's got a cert on it and it's internal, well then what do you need here? You need a trusted root cert on your box. Okay, great, easy one. You go into config manager or into Intune, and you go set up a new configuration profile, and there's an option to select a template for what am I looking for?
Trusted certificate.
Trusted
I think.
certificate. Yep, trusted certificate. You have to create a new profile per certificate, and in this case, you have to actually go export the cert. So I haven't exported the cert from my CA. But so I would go here and export it and then import the cert, and then I'd push that out just like any other configuration setting for our devices. So that's how you get your trusted root cert on. Okay, and then you need like user auth certs and things. Great. You then look at SCEP or the PFX connector or those sorts of Indes to be able to push down custom certs for your users for your devices. So there's ways to get through these things, but the first step is just like crossing this bridge of let me just prove that this can work and then go from there. So I think that's kind of the story here. Is just this is possible. It's doable. And if you've already got Azure AD devices and they're not working on-prem with on-prem resources, go and check your Azure AD Connect configuration. Something is misconfigured, or you're using the wrong user credentials to sign in. You're just something's not right in that mix. Now, when we set up before with my Azure AD only account. Oh yeah. Sorry. We actually said we wanted to try that. Sorry, this is we're trying to learn something here.
Learning by doing.
Okay. This machine. So I think we know the answer now already, but an Azure AD only user account on the business network should not work. And it should really be the same as we just had with this account before we synchronized the password correctly, because on-prem Active Directory does not know about that user account. It doesn't know about that password. It doesn't trust it. Right? So lab1.on. There we go. All right, so
Ooh, what about the file share? That's something I'm really interested in finding out.
Now it won't have access to cool stuff because we didn't give access to cool stuff. Okay, so definitely doesn't like that. But the website could work because it's basic auth or like it's anonymous whatever auth on it, I think, by default on the root. So it doesn't have Windows auth configured, which would make sense that could work. Where's the authentication settings? Yeah, so it's got anonymous enabled. So if we were to turn on Windows auth, this would not work. I'm like 99% sure on that. But it would from the other account. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
So no worky. But you could type in like this and get there, which is kind of cool too. Which is probably what you're doing anyway if you've kind of got this halfway working but not quite. Yeah, so that kind of confirms that. So if all your websites are configured for anonymous auth, great, but that's not what you want. Anyway, let us know if you want to see more stuff around this, because like we've talked about things like so like on Windows auth, you can change the Kerberos, the providers here you can add Kerberos and different things as different providers to help make this more modern on IIS. But then you can also do things like Azure App Proxy and stuff. And so I know we've generally stayed away from the on-prem discussion in our channel, but we're starting to kind of recognize that if we're trying to get people who currently have on-prem stuff to move to the cloud, that promoting Azure AD only and helping with that migration, I think we need to provide a little bit more migration and guidance, I think. So trying.
And because it's not obvious, you're gonna bump into things that you've never seen before, and there's nothing obvious that it's what the issue that you're facing isn't obvious.
Yeah, it's really not. And you got to know, like, it's a question of whether you think it to be possible, and then proving that it is in fact possible, or just assuming that it's not possible, and saying and going the hybrid route, saying, "Oh, we can't do it because that doesn't make sense. Why would that work?" Yeah, but it's designed to work.
For those of you who have gone a little bit further and have, like, once you start reading up about hybrid key trust and all of those things, and just you see a list of certificate requirements and you just give up. You don't have to. It's not complicated to set up, really. It's a complicated concept, but in the practical setup is not. It takes minutes, really.
Yeah, except in our video where we just really royally had a hard time, and we now understand it greatly. much better now. Sorry. Maybe someday. Maybe that'll be our next round here, is we'll do it again because we've got everything configured and should make it work easier.
Yeah.
So, well, I think this has gone on long enough.
Almost 2 hours.
But yeah, it's been a bit. So thank you for sticking with us if you did. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you made it to this far. But yeah, let us know what else you need to see, and hopefully you'll make the cloud journey soon. Thanks, Jóhannes, for joining me. I know I just kind of rambled on a bit, but thank you for helping bounce ideas around and share your thoughts on this. Hopefully we'll have you back on again.
Woo-hoo. Thank you.
See you next time.
Yes.